Preview, where are we?
Houston.
Where are we going?
We're going to Nicaragua.
As we embarked on our trip to Nicaragua, no one knew what exactly to expect. We knew there would be volleyball, we knew there would be exciting things to do, but none of us expected us to learn so much about ourselves and our team. Upon arriving in Managua, Nicaragua, we were hustled across the street to our hotel. After meeting Brooke, our guide and translator, we went off to bed to prepare for the bus trip the next morning to San Juan del Sur. That initial bus drive will always leave an amazing impression on me. Packing our entire party into one of their Toyota buses was quite an undertaking. All of our luggage got strapped to the roof while every seat in the bus was occupied, as well as a couple jump seats, which I doubt were ever actually intended to be used. Once we folded ourselves in, we headed off into the crowded streets of Managua. It was instantly obvious that the lives of the people of Nicaragua were of little resemblance to our own personal experiences. While Managua was a bustling urban center, there were still many overladen horse-drawn carriages, tiny smoking motorcycles, and small huts with barely functioning roofs all over the city. As we made our way south, urban living gave way to the country, and a whole new set of interesting sights. I loved seeing the uniformed school kids walking to school. There were horses and cattle just standing on the side of the road, tethered to a small branch or pole. Fences were made of old logs cut from trees and planted in the ground, several of which had started growing themselves. It was a whole different world. During our road-going voyage, we made one major stop. It was an amazing overlook called Apoyo Lagoon. It looked like a huge, clear lake right next to a towering volcano. It was a perfect spot to enjoy the beauty of Nicaragua, for Jim Glenn to make friends early in the trip, and for us to capture a beautiful team photo. Even though we didn't interact with many of the local people during the drive, the scenery that we experienced set the stage for what was going to be an incredible trip.
When we went to Nicaragua, we went for the community service and the volleyball, but we never expected to be able to have so much free time. We were very privileged to be able to go ziplining. This was an awesome experience that I was happy and privileged to share with my team and best friends. Going ziplining helped me to really see the beautiful country of Nicaragua from a different point of view. I also got to really bond with the men who were taking us on this trip. Even though our conversations didn't really get past hi and how are you, I still really felt like I got to know the guys and their crazy, funny personalities. All in all, it was a great trip and I had so much fun and learned a lot.
Hi. That's really close on my face. What am I supposed to say? About the zipline? Sure. No, about the house. Oh, I was talking about it. It was really fun and yeah.
The first night we played Nicaragua was probably one of the most unforgettable experiences I've ever had the privilege to be a part of. I would almost put it up there with playing Hawaii last fall. Even though it wasn't the best volleyball we'd ever played, the atmosphere and the people and the music was really cool. And the atmosphere was something that you would see in movies almost, with the concrete floor and graffiti walls and the DJ blasting music the whole time we were playing. It was unreal. When we got there, we were waiting for the national Nicaraguan team to arrive because they said their bus broke down, so we were just standing there taking everything around us. The first thing we did when we got there was to attempt to dive on the floor, just to test it out and see how it was going to feel because it was concrete. Then it turned into a dance party with music. I'm pretty sure everyone was staring at us because I felt like I was in a zoo. There were kids playing volleyball, so to pass the time, some of us walked over and asked to play with them. Luckily, one of the girls spoke English, so she could translate for us. Interacting with people was so awesome. You could just tell that it meant the world to the kids for us to want to play with them. When it came time to play, it took longer than we would have hoped to adjust to the humidity and atmosphere. Even though we didn't win and we weren't all that happy with our performance, we were on a beach in Nicaragua playing the national team outdoors with the lights, the music, the people, playing the game that we all love. It doesn't get much better than that.
We started off our third day in Nicaragua by splitting into two groups for community outreach. The outside hitters, defensive specialists, Tom and Jenny, loaded up in the back of a pickup truck and headed into the rainforest to deliver books with the mobile library, or Biblioteca Mobile, to the locals. The mobile library is a service that takes tubs of children's books to schools outside of the city. Each student is allowed to check out a new book for the month as long as they return the one from the previous month. The mobile library and their group of volunteers strive to reach each school in the area once per month. After departing San Juan del Sur, we traveled along dirt roads deep into the rainforest before arriving at a small school. Amanda, Jill, and Alyssa helped the children check in their old book and check out their new book, while the rest of the group went into the classrooms to help the kids with a craft project. Mother's Day was fast approaching in Nicaragua, so we helped the kids make paper flowers for their mothers. Feliz Dia Mama. The children were slightly scared of us when we arrived, but quickly warmed up as we helped them with their crafts. The final 15 minutes of our time at this school was spent interacting with the children and playing soccer with the ball that the mobile library brought with them. The children were so excited to play with a real soccer ball, the only one that they would likely see until the library returned the following month. It was amazing to watch how quickly we were able to connect with the kids and how much of an influence they had on our lives. The moments in this short hour of our trip had such an impact on so many of us. After we left the children at the first school, we headed to our second school of the day. Unfortunately, by the time we arrived, they had decided to let out school for the day, so we headed to the beach right next to the school for a few minutes. Cocoa Beach was pristine, untouched, and remote. After taking the beautiful scenery in and snapping a few pictures, we headed home. A few short hours full of lasting impressions.
How do you say duck, duck, goose in Spanish? He knows duck.
Meredith, what are we doing?
We are at an escuela, and we're going to read books to them.
The Setters and Middles went as a group to a school with the dental ministry team. This was my favorite part of the trip because not only did we get to play and have fun with the kids, we also got to see how amazing this ministry works with schools in Nicaragua. Most of the children in Nicaragua constantly eat frozen sugar water and other foods that decay their teeth. Our molar teeth chew most of our food, and many children in Nicaragua lose them at a young age because of decay. The dental ministry fills cavities that these children have right at the school. They even found a way to do it without electricity. It is amazing how this ministry has helped so many children by filling cavities. I also enjoyed this trip because I made a friend named Steven. We colored with chalk, played soccer, and volleyball. On this trip, I brought a soccer ball with me and gave it to Steven. We even took a picture together and he put his hand on my shoulder. It was amazing because even though he did not know English and I knew very little Spanish, we had so much fun. It was a life-changing experience I will never forget.
Beach day was probably one of the best and most memorable day of the Nicaragua trip. The car ride out there was an experience in itself. We all were split up in 3 different trucks. I was sitting inside Brooke's truck with a few other teammates, while some were sitting in the bed of her truck. The rest of the team was standing in the bed of a truck that had railings, and the parents were sitting in almost a safari-looking exposed truck. Once we got to the beach, we all headed straight for the water. Getting to the ocean was a huge personal challenge for me personally because I'm deathly afraid of sharks, so for me getting in the water was a personal accomplishment and for others as well. A lot of us tried our hand in surfing and took surfing lessons from local instructors. Surfing was one of my favorite parts of the day. I probably wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to surf, so that was really exciting. As the day started to wind down, me, Kelly, and Dre played a pickup sand volleyball game right by the beach against two random people that we had met on the beach. It wasn't exactly the prettiest game to watch, but we had a lot of fun. Overall, beach day was super fun. It was a day where everyone could just relax, kick back, and enjoy each other's company and soak up the sun.
Buena con mi nana guango.
When I heard from Brooke, our tour guide, that we were going to go to the English school that she had founded, I got really excited. This is going to be the third school that we were visiting. The previous visits were so eye-opening, and I knew that this school would be no different. On our way there, in our usual mode of transportation, riding in the back of trucks, I began to get more and more excited. We pulled up, and the children were all playing outside the building. They didn't have any typical toys that you would find on playgrounds in the United States. They made do with what they had. We walked in and we all lined up, one by one. They introduced themselves in English. Then we went and introduced ourselves. Afterward, we paired up and read several books before playing games. I paired up with an 8-year-old little girl named Kayleen, who I absolutely adored. All the books had the words both in English and in Spanish, so since I knew no more Spanish than hola, we learned a language that was not familiar to us. She laughed so hard at me trying to speak Spanish. I butchered it. After reading, we played bingo, and shortly after we switched to playing more physical games like volleyball and soccer. They didn't have fields to play on, just a small area covered in dirt and rocks, with a steep downward hill right next to it. None of the children hesitated when a ball rolled down the hill to run after it. This experience of going to the English school was so incredible. I found this school trip to be the most meaningful to me, and I made a connection with a little girl that I know I will never forget. I hope she'll never forget me either. I actually loved it so much that Kayleen and I are pen pals. I know that I was not the only one who made a connection like this on the trip, whether it was at the English school, a different school, a volleyball clinic, or ziplining. Every person left Nicaragua with a different perspective than when they came in.
Our second day in Managua was very interesting. We started it off by waking up in a very nice Hilton hotel with air conditioning and a pool. We had a pretty good breakfast in the restaurant at the hotel that included some Nicaraguan foods as well as some American items. After we fueled up, we got back on the bus and headed to our final match against El Salvador. It was already very warm in the gym, but we were all excited to play. We won in 4 sets, and for the final game, we mixed up on both sides with the other team. It was so great to play with the girls because we didn't use either of our native languages to communicate, we just used the language of volleyball. It was such an amazing experience. After we finished up at the gym, we headed out to see some of Managua. We went to a shopping mall, and we also got to go to a marketplace where we did some bargaining. Once we were done checking it out, we went back to the gym to play Nicaragua. There were a lot of people already in the gym to watch, and it was of course hot and humid. This would be our last match at this venue, so we were excited. The game started off pretty good, but it turned into a back and forth battle. Unfortunately, they beat us in 5 sets. We were all pretty exhausted. As soon as we were done, we got ready to make our way to Granada. Granada was one of the older and more historical cities that we went to while in Nicaragua. The hotel was so beautiful with older architecture and a very comfortable, homey feeling. Granada was and still is a very important part of Nicaragua economically, once as a place for trade and now as a place for tourism. Right outside our hotel, there were a lot of little shops all around with little trinkets and things for sale. The best thing they were selling, to me personally, were the mangoes. The coolest thing we did in Granada, in my opinion, was go to Lake Nicaragua. We took a boat tour and saw some of the most beautiful houses and nature. The houses were all located on their own personal islands. All of these islands were formed when the volcano erupted and separated the land. The tour guides were very nice and told us all about the houses and their unique stories. I'm so glad I got to experience Granada and all of its attractions.
Pull it out.
Our second to last day in Nicaragua, we stayed in Granada. We got the wonderful opportunity of working with some kids to teach them the game of volleyball. The court was outside, made of tiles, so that gave the clinic a unique feel. It was great being able to connect with the kids through barriers other than language. Communicating through actions and facial expressions is a lot stronger and more meaningful than through words. When the kids succeeded at what we were teaching them, it was so great to witness it. It was really cool seeing the kids enjoy themselves with smiles on their faces, no matter the result. It makes everything that much better when the kids are excited to play, because that makes the interactions that much stronger. The kids were so deserving and grateful, and that really touched my heart. It brings a smile to my face watching kids have fun doing something that I love to do. It is unbelievable how simple a high five to us means the world to some of these children. I hope that they will always remember the time we shared, as I will. I am so grateful that I got to experience the time I did with these great group of kids.
The night before we had to leave Nicaragua, we gathered up all of our older clothes that we had brought intentionally for this, our old volleyball shoes, knee pads, and jerseys as well. When our coaches had first told us about this trip to Nicaragua back in the planning stages, they had mentioned that we were going to be doing this. I had gotten instantly excited to get rid of a bunch of my old stuff and to know exactly where my things were going. I had no idea that we were going to be able to bring together as many items as we did. During the process of packing all of our things up that night, we ran out of bags to put everything in. The front desk even ran out of plastic bags that they were giving us. We were then able to pull out some of our bags that we had not intended on giving away, but because of the great experience and the need that we saw that these people had, we had decided to give some of our own backpacks away as well. Going to Nicaragua with a bunch of baggage and leaving with not even half of the stuff I had brought felt great. It was as if we were leaving a part of ourselves in Nicaragua.
Our Nicaragua trip really made our team grow and stretch beyond our comfort zone. We were in the middle of a culture that is vibrant and content, yet they have so little. We take so much for granted here in the United States, and especially in higher education and in sports. It is always a unique experience to travel outside of the U.S. because your eyes are open to new ways of doing things, different priorities and beliefs, and a culture you cannot see on a daily basis here in the U.S. This trip was even beyond that. We worked a lot with kids, and it is so evident that many of our players have a special gift with children and will make great teachers and mothers.
We were challenged in the matches with the atmosphere, conditions, and competition. The adversity we will see on our schedule this year will seem like nothing. We also got to just enjoy each other's company and bond as a group, something you can't recreate in your hometown. Learning to surf, overcoming the fear of heights to zip line, and teasing the monkeys as they played in the trees were also rewards for the work days. Our 2012 season will be different because of what we experienced together in Nicaragua, but more importantly, each individual was changed for the better. We appreciate all of those who made this trip possible.